And this watch literally costs less than a round that I recently bought in a bloody all-bar one. And before anyone gives me any shit at all in the comments about going to an all-bar one, it absolutely was not my choice. For the hilarious sum of 69 British pounds, you can bag yourself the CMF Watch Pro 2, which boasts an alluring customizable design, a bright and poppy AMOLED display, all kinds of clever bollocks, fitness and health tracking, and supposedly up to 11 days of battery life. But is the CMF Watch Pro 2 actually cracking value? Well, let's rip it on out that box, then through the powers of video editing, whoosh forward in time a full week and I'll deliver my in-depth review. And for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do poke subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! So CMF is of course the budget side of Nothing, who brought you the Nothing Phone 1, the Nothing Phone 2, and for some reason a weird serial killer lab coat. I'm certainly a big fan of all the CMF stuff that I've tested so far. Wait a minute, what the fuck? Anyway, let's crack it open, see what you get with the Watch Pro 2. So you've got the watch, of course. You've got the magnetic charging dock. And you've got yourself a brief user guide as well, so you know exactly how to get the watch all set up and ready for action. And that's your bally lot. So, see you in a week. Alright, so I've had the CMF Watch 2 Pro slapped on my pale spindly northern wrist for the best part of a week now, and so far rather liking that design. Although I can absolutely see it being rather divisive as well, but the case is constructed from an aluminium alloy, so you got a reasonably premium vibe here despite the bargain price. The lightweight design may give the impression that it's just constructed from plastic, but so far seems pretty hardy. Certainly quite a distinctive design, that wee bit of Brandon just there on the bezel. But this can actually be swapped out if you've got one of the CMF Watch Pro 2 bezel and strap sets. It's not the smoothest of operations, but you basically just got to twist the bezel and then kind of yank it off. It's a bit stiff, and then you can slap on a fresh bezel in its place, more of a rounded effort compared with the flat original. You've got a total of 4 straps to choose from right now. You've got dark and light grey, which are both silicone efforts, and then you've also got blue and orange leathery style bands. You want something a bit brighter. And they're standard 22mm bands, they just snap on and off easily enough for these little catches. And then you can chuck on the new ones. Helps if you don't bite your fingernails to bits, of course. And there we have it, total makeover for the CMF Watch Pro 2. Yeah, simple, straightforward design. As you can see, just a single button on the edge, which is actually a digital crown. You push that in to wake up the watch and also get straight into your apps menu, and also twist it to skim through some of the various menus. It's a little bit stiff though, so I did struggle when I was just trying to use it with just my thumb. Certainly not a satisfying smooth action like what you get with more premium watches, so you definitely have to grip and use it like so. And Nothing has certainly tested the durability on this thing to the extremes. It's put up with all kinds of ridiculous temperatures, it's been dropped tons, blasted with salt spray. I mean, after all that, it should be looking like John McClane at the end of Die Hard. It's been abused more than the average choir boy. And the CMF Watch Pro 2 is also IP68 water and dust resistant, so you can go swimming with it or simply leave it on in the shower. Now, to connect the CMF Watch Pro 2 to your smartphone, you'll want to use the CMF Watch app. Pretty logical name in there, so easy to find in the Google Play Store. It's also available in the Apple App Store. And once you're connected, it will of course sync up all of your health data. And of course you can tweak the watch settings as well, including the watch face. Got a small selection to choose from there just by clicking more. You can change your health stats, you can add contacts to the smartwatch, more on that in a bit. Change up the widgets and also say exactly which notifications are allowed to give you a quick buzz on the wrist. So you can specify individual apps that are allowed to notify you and tell the others to bugger off. You can set alarms and reminders. You can also, by tapping in more, set the do not disturb schedule, raise to wake, and of course you've got the workout detection shenanigans as well. Again, I'll bang on about all that in a bit. Something that always worries me when I review more budget-friendly smartwatches is how good will the connection be. Sometimes they lose connection with the app or the phone, and then that means of course you're not getting any notifications through or anything until you sync them back up again. But thankfully, touch wood, had absolutely no issues with the connection these past few days. Haven't had to angrily restart the app or anything to get them syncing up. As for that screen, well, it's a 1.32-inch round display this time rather than square. It is an AMOLED panel. You've got reasonably poppy colours there, but the UI itself is mostly monochrome, so it doesn't really matter. 326 pixels per inch, so even the tiniest of text is still pin sharp. That screen brightness maxes out at over 600 nits as well. Very impressive for a bargain-friendly budget smartwatch like this. You've got several levels of brightness, and also thank God you've finally got auto brightness on here as well, so you're not constantly having to manually tweak it whenever you go indoors or out. And won't bloody blind you unexpectedly when you're just checking your time or whatever at 2 AM. Touch wood, in my testing so far, that auto brightness feature has been working well. You've also got an always on display as usual with a few varieties to choose from. It doesn't sync up with whatever watch face you've selected automatically, which is slightly annoying, but hey ho. And the always on display is generally too weak to see outdoors, even on an inclement UK day. But if you wake the watch up, the main watch face easily bright enough, even on a sunshiny day, to clearly see what is going on. Nice sharp contrast, of course, as you would expect from an AMOLED display. And you've got 60 Hz refresh as well, so reasonably smooth for a smartwatch, again, of this sort of caliber. And Nothing's UI is relatively streamlined and straightforward. Wake the watch and you're into your main watch face, of course. Then if you swipe left and right, you go skimming through your various widget pages. These are fully customizable via the app. You can't actually customize them here on the watch for some reason. You can set up each element individually. So for instance, here on my first widget, I've got media controls. So you can pause and play any music that's playing on your smartphone. As you can see, it's occasionally a wee bit shonky. You can skip tracks as well and tweak the volume too. Quick 1-minute timer that I can set whenever I just want to go and scream into a pillow for 60 seconds. Got a battery widget, various health stats, activity rings, and a weather widget. If you swipe down from the main watch face, you've got a small selection of toggles, including good old auto brightness, otherwise you can just manually tweak the brightness. You can turn on the torch. You can also turn on power saving mode, otherwise good old do not disturb. And there's quite a lot you can tweak in the actual settings as well, including, again, various screen settings. You can turn on some quick gestures too. And then if you swipe up from that main watch face, you're into your notifications. And these are basic at best. You can see who's sent you a message and sort of read the first bit of the message, but then that's basically all you can do, apart from ignore it. So basically it's good so you're not constantly pulling out your phone to see what the new notification is, if it's actually worth responding to, but very basic compared with what you'll find on the likes of Wear OS. No complaints with the haptics though. You get a pleasurable little buzz whenever something happens. I also found it was strong enough when I set an alarm to get me up in the morning. And as I mentioned, completely customizable via that app, so you can get rid of any individual element and swap them for quite a decent variety of other bits instead. These are all the offerings you've got. Plenty of health stats and all that kind of shenanigans in there. Stress, sleep, extra bits like the timers, your breathing exercises. As for the watch faces, we've got a small selection pre-installed here on the CMF Watch Pro 2. 7 in total, that's all you can fit on at any given moment, but you can erase old ones and swap in new ones. Got a selection of digital and analog ones, and they are slightly customizable. Usually you can just change up the color ever so slightly, but sometimes you've got a little bit of extra customization, little elements that you can tweak. And there's really not a huge amount more here in the actual CMF Watch app as well, but you get a small selection you can play around with, including some animated efforts. And here's hoping this selection rapidly expands, otherwise of course you can just set your own custom dial using your very own wallpaper. As for your apps, well, they're just a quick poke of this button away. You got all the usual efforts in here that you would expect, quite a lot of them health based. So starting at the top, you can record an exercise, check your heart rate, you got blood oxygen levels in there, 24-hour tracking for the likes of the heart rate anyway. You can check your activity, see how you're doing on the steps goal, the number of hours you've actually not been just sat on your arse, etc. The cycles feature I think might be new just for keeping track of that. You got usual stuff, world clock, reminders. Music is just a remote control for any music playing on your actual phone. You can once again use the CMF Watch Pro as a camera remote as well, although I believe this only works on Android. There's also a voice assistant feature, but again, this is not built into the CMF Watch Pro 2. All this does is wake up your smartphone's voice assistant, in this case, give it a Gemini. You right, Gemini? How you doing, mate? It's now using an entire national grid's worth of energy to conjure up a reply. And then, yes, stopwatch, timers, alarms, calendars, calculators, etc. All the obvious stuff. Well, that timer feature, Jesus Christ, I will not be using this again in a hurry, that's for sure, because just yesterday, in fact, I set a timer for an hour and a half when I was cooking a chicken, wandered off, started doing other things. Just over 2 hours later, realised the bastard never went off, sprinted to the oven, yanked out my meat as fast as I could, and frankly, it was looking rather sad and shriveled. As for the mic and speaker, they seem to work absolutely fine when you're accepting a call. You can also place a call on the watch via the phone, of course. Only problem being, same as with the original watch, you've only got space on here for 30 contacts and you have to manually add them from your phone. So if you've got lots of great mates, you just have to choose which ones you contact most often. Thankfully, not really a problem if you just spend all day making crap videos and your only real friend is a crusty sock puppet. No! Who you calling crusty, you hairless f***? Oh, and once again, there's bug roll support for contactless payments on the CMF Watch Pro 2. So that's a bit of a bum. And of course, as you'd expect from pretty much any smartwatch these days, you've got the old 24-hour heart rate tracking. I appear to have been practically dead, sort of between the hours of about 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock. And then highly excited right there mid-morning, must have been the thought of shooting this video. And yes, good old stress measurement. Christ, I'm getting stressed just saying stress. And as you can see, super relaxed right now. That's how much I love doing this shit. And you've also got tracking for over 100 different types of exercise. Who'd have thunk there was so much? You can specify some of your favorites. You've got plenty of other options to chuck in here, including all of the obvious stuff. I haven't seen any glaring omissions, that's for sure. You've also now got smart tracking for 3 different types of exercise: walking, running and cycling. What this means is the watch can automatically detect when you're doing one of these things, flash up a wee message saying, hey, congratulations you fat f***, I see you've finally got off your arse and you're doing something. Would you like me to track it for you? The only problem being that it tends to wait a good sort of 5 or 10 minutes before flashing this message up. So typically if I go out for a walk, I'm just arriving at my destination when it's like, oh, would you like me to track your walk for you? And it doesn't track everything you've done up to that point. It literally starts at 0 when you say, yes, please. You could also be a bit more proactive at saying, would you like to stop tracking this exercise as well? Because one time I literally got in for a walk, completely forgot to shut off the exercise tracking, and it was 2 hours later, during which time I'd just been splayed on the sofa recovering from said exercise, that it finally said, oh, do you want to stop now, buddy? In fact, here's the data from said exercise session. You can see I went a whopping 3.7 kilometers in almost 3 hours. You got 5-system global positioning built in for all of your outdoor shenanigans. It's not particularly accurate, but it's absolutely fine if you just want a rough idea of where you went for a wander, a run, a cycle, whatever. And you've also now got some built-in warm-ups as well for specific kinds of exercise, including a good bit of 3D animation shenanigans. Whoa, fancy. And naturally a good bit of sleep tracking as well. It's pretty much obligatory. This is the other thing that annoys me about the rotating dial, by the way, is that it doesn't actually skip you through some of these menus. You still have to use the touchscreen quite often instead. But yeah, sleep tracking, pretty straightforward stuff, reasonably accurate, can generally detect when you fall asleep and roughly when you wake up, and then you get a breakdown of your light and heavy sleeping data. Not that I personally find this very useful indeed. I can tell if I've had a crap night's sleep. I don't need my phone to tell me. What I do need is my phone to just make me a cup of coffee when it knows I've had a really night's kip. And last up for the CMF Watch Pro 2 review, the battery life. And what you got stuffed in here is a 305 mAh capacity battery, quite dinky on the whole. I think it's actually shrunk a bit from the previous generation. And Nothing reckons that you'll get up to 11 days of battery life on a single charge. I certainly got nowhere near that figure, but then I had the always on display turned on. It was in the 24-hour heart rate tracking, fair bit of exercise tracking, including occasionally extra exercise tracking that I wasn't expecting. And I found that I got roughly 4 days of full use from a fully charged battery. It's not fantastic. It's not even as good as some Wear OS watches, the likes of the TicWatch, for instance, and the OnePlus watch came pretty bloody close to that. But on the whole, it's not terrible either. Certainly a hell of a lot better than the likes of a Pixel Watch or indeed an Apple Watch. The only other grumble that I've got, I promise this is the last one, is the charge and dock, which is one of these piddly wee magnetic efforts. Unfortunately, this is kind of fiddly. I always end up trying to stick it in the wrong way. And then it's just far too easy to accidentally dislodge it as well. All it needs is a slight nudge, a cough in its general direction, and it comes flying out and stops charging. But anyway, that right there, my lovelies, in a nutshell, is the fresh new CMF Watch Pro 2. Almost forgot its bloody name right at the end of the review. Cheap as chips, of course, and unfortunately you will have to put up with the occasional bit of jank, as you would expect from a budget smartwatch, but it also packs quite a bit of good stuff in there too. I like the design. The fact that it's customizable is always a bonus. Gorgeous AMOLED display, pretty slick UI. But yeah, definitely do not use the timer or your cock will be ruined. That's what I think. Anyway, let us know your own thoughts on the CMF Watch Pro 2 down below. Please do click subscribe, ding that notifications bell for more on the latest and greatest tech. Got a full review of the CMF Phone 1 that should have went live yesterday, but I didn't lose my mind and get so smashed that I forgot to put it live. Have yourselves a bloody wonderful rest of the week. Cheers everyone. Love you.